Hey, what's happening, everybody? It's me, Crazyfrankie, and I'd like to welcome you to my Week 3 4 key game picks. Before I get into my 4 key game picks for week number 3, it is a lot to digest in what happened in week number 2 because week 2 was incredibly wild, and I will not get through everything, so I just want to say a couple of quick things about what happened in week number 2. Other than the fact we've seen a lot of things, one of the best Sunday night games we've seen in a while. We've had some bad referee calls in some football games. Cowboys, Chargers. Obviously, a certain team from Las Vegas is undefeated, and I'm surprised that Pittsburgh is much worse than I thought they were. And obviously, a certain quarterback named Tom Brady is continuing his dominance as he destroyed the Falcons. And of course, you had Aaron Rodgers telling once again, getting into that little RELAX moment of relax in the big victory against the Lions last week. What I will say for a couple of things here that came in a minute, you gotta talk about that Sunday night game. It was gutsy call at the end of the game for Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh to go for it on fourth down, knowing full well what Patrick Mahomes is capable of. And I absolutely agree with that call. It was the right call. You had to keep possession of the ball because anytime you give the ball back to Patrick Mahomes, they will score. So obviously turnovers were killer in that game again for both teams, especially late in the fourth quarter. Kansas City was on the verge of possibly running out the clock to take the lead, and then they fumbled. And Baltimore was able to get it back. And, of course, it really brought the fourth down decision for Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh to go for it, and it paid off. So Lamar Jackson finally beating Patrick Mahomes for the first time in his career, and there'll be plenty more to come for these two great quarterbacks, and hopefully down the line towards in the playoffs again very, very soon. I don't really want to talk about some bad officiating, and obviously going to that Cowboys-Chargers game, there really was some bad officiating in that game. But I will give the Cowboys some credit, though. They fought back, and they're able to hold the Chargers at bay in the fourth quarter, which really the Chargers, with dumb penalties, they really should have had the lead in that game. But then again, who knows if Dak Prescott and the Cowboys probably would have scored a touchdown anyway, because in all honesty, the way the Chargers defense played in that game, it wasn't great at all. So yeah, give the Cowboys some credit. It was a game they had to have, and it was a way for them to really make some sort of stance in the NFC East right now. I mean, that division is still a mess right now. Speaking of teams coming back, had to make a statement. Obviously, the Bills making a statement against the Dolphins, literally just tore them apart. Not only that, Cleveland making a stance against the Texans, even though the Texans gave the Browns quite a game, but Baker Mayfield and that Cleveland offense finally got their act together and got a win in a necessary game that they had to have. And then how about that Minnesota that Vikings Cardinals game? Oh my gosh. A missed field goal at the last second, Minnesota losing to the Arizona Cardinals. And if you guys saw the highlights of Gus Johnson, oh man, Gus Johnson is a national treasure when it comes to football broadcasts. I really like to hear more of Gus Johnson. That guy is just incredible. And how about the Seahawks? How did they let the Titans come back and beat them after they had a pretty good sizable lead against the Titans, and yet you let Henry go into beast mode? Basically, Seattle's defense, you could tell now they have a huge flaw in their defense. And that flaw is basically stopping the run, because Henry was a beast in the second half of that game, and he was the difference maker that provided the comeback for the Titans and beat the Seahawks in overtime. So yeah, Seattle's defense got some work to do. There's a lot to digest here what happened in week number 2, but I got to finish that train of thought now, as I got to make my picks now for week number 3. So let's get into it. All right, let's begin with key game number 1. It is the Saints versus the Patriots. Now, Jameis Winston, 11 of 22, 111 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, possibly one of his worst games he's had as a Saint. And for Mac Jones and the Patriots, total dominance against the Jets, though. His stats were 22 of 30, 186 yards, no touchdowns, and no interceptions. So basically, the defense really for the Patriots was the difference maker in that game against the Jets. The Patriots are a slight favorite at 3, and I would say that's about right. I don't think that number is going to change towards kickoff here. There's a lot of things that the Saints, hopefully they can get fixed, and obviously they got so full of themselves in the big win against the Packers, they literally forgot to play well against the Panthers. So now it comes to mind now, obviously, and at the same time too, the Saints could make an excuse, because Sean Payton was limited in terms of his coaches because obviously the COVID protocols were in effect for the team, and obviously it kind of did play a role in the way the Saints basically laid an egg against the Panthers. Now, hopefully by then that Sean Payton will have the rest of his coaching staff back because they're going to be needed in this game against the Patriots. Even though despite Mac Jones in his third rookie start, obviously the Saints have to really watch. They got to figure out a way to get past the Patriots defense here because they actually played dominant against the Jets. It's really hard to say right now who wins this game. This game pretty much is a toss-up here, and I really don't know how this game's going to play out. You would say that you would trust Bill Belichick, but when it comes down to it, though, the Saints sort of have a much better team than the Pats do in terms of players because of the amount of years that the team still has together, that the players that are still there on that team, even though there's no Drew Brees anymore. Who wins this game? It's going to determine which offense shows up for both teams. And I'm actually going to go out on the upset here. I think the New Orleans Saints will barely squeak out a victory against the Patriots. I think it's going to be a very, very close game, and probably more than likely this will be low scoring, but I'm actually going to pick the Saints here. I think if the Saints coaching staff, if they rebound and everybody is back to where they should be here, I think the Saints will barely beat the Patriots here, because the Patriots here, they're starting to improve a little bit more, and Mac Jones is starting to get into a groove. Well, let's just see what happens with the Saints here. The Saints are still a pretty good, decent team here, and this game should be a close one. It'll probably be low scoring, but I'm going to pick the Saints here in the very, very close game here. Saints over the Patriots. Key game number 2, a showdown in the AFC West. The Chargers versus the Chiefs. The Chiefs are 6.5-point favorite in this one here. And I actually will be a little surprised if this number goes down a little bit, because I think 6.5 is pretty much correct here, the way the Chargers played last week. Now, the Herbert went 31 of 41, 338 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. Obviously, Dallas's defense really came after him, and that's what KC's going to have to do in order to beat the Chargers here. Now, Patrick Mahomes last week in a loss against the Ravens, 24 of 31, 343 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. The Chiefs do have some vulnerabilities in defense, and it's going to be the Chargers' job to try to expose it. Can he expose some weaknesses in the secondary of the Chiefs? And that is definitely one of the keys for the Chargers if they're going to pull the upset here against the Chiefs, because the Chiefs are a heavy favorite in this game. And I kind of consider the Chiefs will bounce back in this game because the Chargers have a lot of work to do on defense. I did not like what I saw, and they have to clean up the penalties because the penalties killed them in the game against the Cowboys last week, and that is the one thing that bothers me a bit, because I'm a Chargers fan, and that's one of the things I'm hoping that they improve on in this game against the Chiefs. But you're asking a lot of Justin Herbert to going up against Patrick Mahomes. Remember, Justin Herbert hasn't beaten the Chiefs yet, and he's got to go out there and prove it, but I just don't think it's going to happen in this game, especially with home field advantage for the Chiefs here. I like the Chiefs in this game. It pains me to say this because the Chargers really have a lot of work to do in their defense, and they got to clean up the penalties here. I don't know if they're going to be able to do this in this game against the Chiefs. I just think the Chiefs are slightly better, and I just think the Chiefs will win this game. It pains me saying that, but I got to be honest, and I can't be biased in these videos here. I have to go with the Chiefs here. The Chargers got a lot to clean up here. Hopefully they will improve upon after this game, but I just think the Chiefs are going to win this game. I won't be surprised if it's a close game, but I just think the Chiefs are a much better team in this one here. I like the Chiefs. It's going to be the Chiefs over the Chargers here. Key game number 3, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Rams. The Buccaneers are a 1-point favorite in this one. I'm not sure if that number will go to even or pick or go to you pick 'em status here. It is very, very tough to say because look, Tom Brady last week in a big dominant win over the Falcons. He went 24 of 36, 276 yards, 5 touchdown passes, no interceptions. Now, Matthew Stafford and the Rams, they actually struggled last week a lot against the Colts. They were lucky to win that game they were lucky to win against them, which I really thought that the Rams offense would have been able to put up better points against the Colts. But give the Colts credit, they kept up with the Rams, and the Rams got some issues to solve in the secondary. Now, Matthew Stafford, 19 of 30, 278 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. The Rams better be ready for the Buccaneers because this is all I can say. Tom Brady and Gronkowski and that offense, and not only that, their defense really showed up and basically destroyed the Falcons last week. You are asking a lot for the Rams here to try to pull some sort of upset against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here. It could be a close game here, but I just think that the Buccaneers are going to be too much for the Rams to handle. I like the Buccaneers here. I just think that Tom Brady and that Buccaneers offense and their defense here, they're just on a mission again for a repeat as Super Bowl champions. And the way they played last week against the Falcons, who's to say that the momentum they're going to carry will go into this game? It's probably, I could say this will be a close game, but I just think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to be too much for the Rams here. I'm picking the Buccaneers here, plain and simple, because Tom Brady and that offense, they just a tad better than the Rams offense here, and I just think the Rams are going to struggle in this game here. I like the Buccaneers to beat the Rams here. Buccaneers over the Rams. And finally, key game number 4, it is the Packers versus the 49ers. Aaron Rodgers last week, 22 of 27, 255 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, and the big victory against the Lions. Now, Garoppolo went 22 of 30, 189 yards, 1 touchdown, and no interceptions, in a not-so-impressive victory against the Eagles last week for the 49ers. 49ers are a 3.5-point favorite in this one here, but I think that number is going to drop to 3 or 2.5. A lot of it's going to determine for the Packers here if they can keep that offensive momentum going here. San Francisco's defense wasn't all that impressive. Obviously, they're also dealing with some injuries as well. And it could not come at a worse time, especially when you have to go up against Aaron Rodgers. Now, look, the 49ers have beaten Aaron Rodgers with this current 49ers team, except for one game last season in which the Packers did beat them. Especially with the 49ers dealing with some injuries right now, and a lot of it's going to say if the 49ers offense can get their act together and score more points, because I think they're going to have to really keep up with the Packers here if they're going to beat them. I just think in this game, the Packers are going to be too much for the 49ers here. And that's why I'm going to pick the Green Bay Packers in a slight upset here. I don't really think it should be considered much of an upset because the Packers are starting to become the Packers of what they've been doing these last few years, and Aaron Rodgers still trying to get that mission to go back to the Super Bowl here. But I just think that the Packers offense, I think the 49ers with some injuries in defense, I think you're asking a lot of their defense to stop Aaron Rodgers. I just think the Packers win this game here. I'm going to pick the Packers over the 49ers. All right, everybody, that wraps up my picks for week number 3. For all my week 3 picks, please check the description below, and I'll talk to you guys next week when I make my picks for week number 4. And until then, take care and enjoy your football weekend.